All right, welcome to another deep dive. We're tackling a question that seems to be on everyone's mind these days. Is AI coming for our jobs?
It's definitely a question we're all thinking about.
Yeah. To help us unpack this, we're diving into a YouTube video by AI expert Julie McCoy. And she's not just talking the talk, she's actually running a company building AI. So,
Yeah, she's got skin in the game, for sure.
exactly, she's in the thick of it.
And it's interesting because there is a lot of anxiety around this topic.
Oh,
People
yeah,
are worried. But, today we're not trying to scare anybody.
for
We just
sure.
want to make sure people understand what's happening so they can make, good choices about their own future.
Absolutely. And McCoy kind of gets right to it. Right off the bat, she mentions that McKinsey study. I think everyone's heard that stat that they 30% of jobs will be automated.
Yeah?
But then she kind of hits you with this like, oh, and by the way, AI researchers are now saying full automation is going to happen a lot sooner than we thought.
Yeah, that was a bit of a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people. Like, researchers were originally thinking, okay, full automation, not till 2100.
Yeah, way in the future.
Yeah, but based on how quickly AI is actually developing, it looks like that's going to happen like 50 to 80 years ahead of schedule.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty massive shift in the timeline.
Yep, it is.
So what does that actually mean? What are the implications? McCoy seems especially concerned about white-collar jobs.
Right.
What's making them so vulnerable right now?
I think the two big things are machine learning and then natural language processing.
Okay.
So, machine learning is basically teaching computers how to learn from data, but without having to program every single little step.
Okay.
So, like, imagine a computer going through, like, tons of financial data,
Mm-hmm.
and it can pick out patterns and trends that maybe a human would miss.
Right.
That's like, machine learning
Yeah.
and then natural language processing. That's basically letting AI understand and even create, like, human language.
Right. So those chat bots.
Exactly. Exactly. Like those chatbots that can have a conversation, or even AI writing tools that can, like, write blog posts.
I see where you're going with this because a
Mhm.
lot of those white collar jobs are all about that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Data analysis, writing
Yeah.
reports. I mean, even legal research,
All that stuff.
And McCoy, she uses the example of Ross Intelligence, which uses AI to go through legal documents.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that kind of technology is actually being used? What does that mean for, say, lawyers?
Yeah, so Ross Intelligence is a really good example.
Okay.
It's basically like having a ton of paralegals all at once,
Right.
able to go through a huge amount of legal cases, finding, anything that's relevant.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean lawyers are going to be out of a job, but it definitely changes how they work.
Right.
Instead of spending hours and hours doing research, they can focus more on strategy, working with their clients, and like the really detailed parts of legal arguments.
So it's not about replacing them. It's more like giving them a tool.
Exactly. It's like augmenting what they can already do.
Yeah, so it seems like white-collar workers are kind of feeling that impact right away.
Yeah.
But McCoy also talks about blue-collar jobs being affected too, just maybe on a slightly longer timeline.
Hmm.
But she makes this really interesting distinction between AI copying human reasoning versus behavior.
Right.
What does she actually mean by that, and how does it connect to the future of blue-collar jobs?
Yeah, it's a really key difference. So reasoning is about thinking, making decisions, solving problems. Behavior, on the other hand, that's about physical stuff,
Okay,
like doing things. And AI is getting so good at reasoning,
right.
which is why we're seeing it take on jobs like, finance and legal research.
So does that mean blue-collar jobs are safe because they're more physical for now?
Well, not necessarily. Remember McCoy mentioned FigureAI,
Yeah.
the company that's making those humanoid robots. Their CEO actually predicts that we're going to have something like 10 billion robots by 2040.
10 billion.
Yeah, and these robots are made to copy behavior, things like walking, grabbing stuff, using tools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal for jobs that involve physical work, like manufacturing and construction, even things like caring for the elderly.
Yeah, that is a pretty mind-blowing idea. 10 billion robots walking around.
It is. And I think it really starts to make us question, what is the future of work going to look like?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to pause for now.
Okay,
We've got a lot more to unpack from McCoy's video, so we'll be back in just a minute to dive back in.
sounds good.
10 billion robots. That's hard to even imagine.
It is. It really is.
But it seems like what McCoy's getting at is it's not that jobs are just going to vanish. It's more that how we work, it's going to be totally different.
Yeah, and that's her big takeaway, right? The future is going to belong to the people who can work with AI, not try to fight against it.
Right, so we need to stop thinking of AI as like this job-stealing monster
Hmm.
and think of it more as like a powerful tool. you know?
Right.
Something that can help us do our jobs better, maybe even get rid of all that boring, repetitive stuff.
Exactly. And I think that shift in perspective is so important. McCoy
Mm-hmm.
even gives some examples of how AI is already changing different white-collar jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are kind of surprising.
I know, right? Like she even talks about journalists and content creators starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah.
I used to be a writer, and I can see how AI could automate a lot of that.
Oh, it's already happening. The Associated Press, they've been using AI to, like, create those basic news reports.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially for sports and financial stuff. And they've been doing it since 2014.
Wow, so it's not just some far-off future thing.
No, not at all.
What other fields are seeing this kind of disruption?
Well, McCoy mentions a few. So in finance, there's this platform called Kinshow. And it's basically automating that really complex financial analysis.
Okay.
The stuff that used to take like a whole team of people to do.
Right, right.
And then in law, we already talked about Ross Intelligence, which is changing how lawyers do their research.
It makes you wonder, what does all of this mean for education? Like, is college even worth it anymore if AI can do these jobs faster and cheaper?
Yeah, it's a huge question.
It is.
I think what McCoy's getting at is that the old school way of doing education, memorizing facts and just learning one very specific skill,
Yeah.
that's just not going to cut it anymore.
Right, so it's less about learning what and more about learning how to learn.
Exactly.
How to adapt, how to keep learning new things alongside AI instead of trying to, beat it.
Exactly. And we need to be focusing on developing those skills that are uniquely human, the things we talked about earlier, like emotional intelligence, creativity, being able to solve really complex problems.
Right, those are the things that will make us stand out, right? In a world where AI can handle the more routine stuff.
Yeah, it's not just about mastering one specific job.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about always learning, being adaptable, because things are changing so fast. And those qualities, being adaptable, being willing to learn new things, that's going to help in any career.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether AI is involved or not. It's really about becoming more well-rounded, more resilient people.
Okay, so we've talked about white-collar jobs, but McCoy also says that blue-collar jobs won't escape this wave of automation.
Yeah.
And she had that crazy example of FigureAI trying to create 10 billion humanoid robots by 2040. Imagine robots doing construction, manufacturing, even taking care of the elderly.
It's a powerful image for sure.
It is.
And I think it shows just how big this change could be.
Yeah.
And it's not about being scared. It's about understanding what's coming and figuring out how humans fit into this new picture.
Right. And McCoy keeps coming back to that idea that the future belongs to the people who can work with AI.
Yeah.
It's about collaboration, not competition.
What if instead of being afraid of automation, we saw it as a chance to completely redefine work?
Yeah.
What if AI could do all the boring, repetitive stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And that would free us up to focus on things that we actually enjoy, things that need human creativity.
That's a future I can get behind. Like, maybe AI could help us change our values, move away from just wanting money and stuff,
Yeah.
and focus more on finding a way of life that's fulfilling and meaningful.
That's a really interesting thought, and it could definitely happen.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to, like we were saying, being able to adapt and learn new things,
Right.
to embrace the change instead of fighting against it.
And that's why McCoy's ideas are so important, right? She's not just predicting the future,
Right.
she's actively shaping it.
Mhm.
And her advice, embracing AI, learning new skills, constantly learning,
Yeah.
that's important for everyone, no matter what you do for a living.
Absolutely. It goes way beyond just one specific career.
Wow, this has really been thought-provoking.
Yeah, it has.
We've gone from like the very basics of AI, machine learning, all that, to how it could change both blue-collar and white-collar jobs.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but, instead of feeling scared, I'm actually kind of hopeful, like, maybe these AI revolution, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Maybe it's a chance to rethink how we think about work, what it means to have a job, even what it means to have a purpose.
I think that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's really McCoy's message, right? It's not about just sitting back and waiting to see what happens. It's about getting involved, helping shape the future along with AI.
Exactly.
So for our listeners, the people who are feeling inspired, ready to do something, what are some steps they can take to get ready for this AI future?
Well, I think the first thing is, and it sounds simple, but it's huge, you got to be willing to keep learning.
Okay.
Stay curious about new tech, explore different fields, and be open to learning new skills as things change.
It's like that saying, the only thing that stays the same is change, right?
Exactly. And especially with tech, it's moving so fast.
It really is. So when it comes to AI, where do people even start? There's so much out there, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. Just start small.
Okay.
Try some of the AI tools that are already around, like those chatbot,
Right.
language translation apps, even those AI writing
Ah,
assistants.
yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, you can use them to write email or even like blog posts.
I like that. Just get comfortable with the tech before jumping into the really complicated stuff.
Exactly. And as you get used to those tools, you'll see how they can make your life easier,
Yeah.
make you more productive, even spark your creativity.
It's all goes back to McCoy's point, right? The future belongs to those who can work with AI. It's not us against them. It's about figuring out how to use AI to do more and then focusing on the things that make us human, the things AI can't do.
And that brings us back to that question McCoy asked, if AI could really take care of all the boring stuff, how would we define work? What would purpose even mean?
That's a big one.
It is,
What could we do if we didn't have to work a traditional job to make a living?
it's tough to say for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but think about it. Maybe we'd see more people doing art, focusing on community, really exploring what it means to be human, connecting with each other.
Wow, that's a pretty amazing future.
It is.
Like AI could help us shift our values, move away from just money and things,
Yeah, exactly.
and focus more on, living a life that has meaning.
And who knows what we could create, what we could discover if we weren't tied to that 9 to 5 grind.
This deep dive has been incredible.
It has.
We started out kind of worried, like, oh no, the robots are taking over.
Right.
But now I'm actually feeling pretty good about it. Like this could be a really positive thing.
I agree. And I think that's the best way to think about it.
Yeah. While all this change might seem scary, it's also a huge opportunity, a chance to change what it means to work, what it means to live, even what it means to just be human.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
To everyone listening, we encourage you to stay curious, stay adaptable, be a part of shaking the future right alongside AI. And remember, the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we create together.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Keep exploring, keep thinking.